Okay, if I had IBS, these are the 5 things that I would do first to try to prevent getting outside help if I thought I could handle it. But by no means am I telling you to do that. If it's really severe and you're scared, definitely go get checked because no way am I telling you to ignore serious symptoms. But if you're dealing with that frustrating roller coaster of bloating, gas, diarrhea, normal stool, diarrhea, and all this kind of stuff, this is what I would do first. Number one. I would track your food and I would eliminate the 5 belly busters. Let's start with tracking your food. This is just so important because if you don't have the data, what do you really have? Data is just something that is so simple to do, but people avoid it. So this just means getting a simple piece of paper, just jotting down really simply what you had for breakfast and lunch and dinner and anything in between, gum, mints, drinks, anything that you are consuming, whether it's liquid, gum, mints, food, whatever it is. This is really important. You're going to track that down. Then on the right margin, you're going to write associated symptoms. So if you should have symptoms, let's say you had your lunch at 12 o'clock, at 1:37, arbitrary, you feel like you had bloating or gas or you had to run to the bathroom, you would make that note in the right hand margin. So use your right hand margin for your symptoms or when things aren't going the way that they're supposed to go. Next, the 5 belly busters. These are pork, peanuts, corn, soy, and wheat. Let's hit why all 5 of these are off the list if you are my patient. Number one, pork. Very hard to digest, very similar genetically to humans. Very hard to digest. These animals are commonly mistreated. This is me giving you this information because I've dealt with thousands of patients with IBS and diarrhea, and these are just the clues that have been left for me all this time in the 20 years I've been doing this, 20 plus years I've been doing this. So pork, very hard to digest. Number two, peanuts. If you get Valencia peanuts, that's fine because those are grown in New Mexico, way better, less humidity. But Georgia, South Carolina, this is a humid environment, so molds grow like aflatoxin. So be careful about that. And this is why there's so much peanut allergy is because they're allergic to the aflatoxin. So peanuts are a no-go unless they're Valencia peanut butter. If you have a Costco membership, you can get the 2-pack of peanut butter with the red lid. I think it's $14.99 last I checked at the time of this video, but it's delicious. You could get Santa Cruz. It comes in a glass jar, Santa Cruz, New Mexico. So Valencia peanut butter is great. You can get it from Trader Joe's too. Pork, peanuts, corn, and soy. Why corn and soy? Because they are hybridized, similar to genetically modified, highly sprayed with pesticide as they are growing, really tampers with the gut. And let's face it, if you're already suffering with gas, bloat, discomfort, diarrhea, all this kind of thing, less chemicals the better, right? And we don't need to be having to deal with these chemicals found in our foods. So corn and soy, highly modified, hybridized. They are altered with, their crops are grown in a way that's not conducive to human health. So be careful about that. Now, if you have some of these things on occasion, that's fine, but that's just something to consider is the more something is sprayed with pesticide, the more toxic it can be to the human body for sure. And you already are having stress. So why do we want to add more? So one more thing about soy is soy messes with estrogen. True story. One of my closest friends was a vegetarian for a long time. And we're talking like 9 years, strict. And she ate tons and tons of soy. She lost her period for a matter of 3 years. She started adding zinc back to her diet. No joke, her period came the very next day. Not only does soy rob you of estrogen, but also certain minerals like zinc messes with the reproductive cycle. I mean, it's just crazy to me. She just went out to a random pharmacy and just got over the counter zinc and got her period the next day. I'll never forget that. All right, let's talk now about wheat. Wheat is hybridized, also sprayed with a lot of pesticide. So if you get things like einkorn wheat, EINKORN, that's a better option. You could get things that are sprouted. You can get sourdough bread, these types of things. But also in that food log, number one tip that I gave you today, make sure that you're noticing how you do with these different types of foods. So even if they're healthy foods, you might want to still avoid them. One such healthy food I want to talk to you about are almonds. I've had plenty of patients come in of late who, when I've removed all almonds from their diet, that took them to that next gear of healing and recovery. So I don't know what's going on with the almond industry and how they're processing the nut there, but that might be something for you to look into, whether it's almond milk, almond flour, almond butter, whatever the case may be. So check into almonds. So that tracker is going to help guide you into the right direction. So even healthy foods for some people you're going to want to avoid. So that's step number one is to track your food and avoid the 5 belly busters. Let's get in now to step two. Step two, this is my bread and butter. As an enzyme nutritionist, I'm going to recommend you take a food enzyme. I have my own custom formulation. If you want to check more about my stuff, it's called Smart Carb. It's in the description. Either way, food enzymes are workers. Nothing in the body works like an enzyme works. And when it comes to food enzymes, these are found in food. So the more ripe a fruit or vegetable is, the more the food enzyme content increases, which simply translates to easier to digest, a very good thing. But the problem is 118 degrees Fahrenheit. Why is that a problem? Because at 118 degrees Fahrenheit, this is when food enzymes are dead. They're now gone. So all that does is put a larger burden on your body's own internal digestive power when you really have that shortcut that you're losing out on when you cook or heat treat your food. Adding the enzymes back, food enzymes back, is what I'm asking here. So you've got food enzymes, which are found in food. You've got digestive enzymes, which are found in your saliva, your stomach, your intestines, and so on. And then you've got metabolic enzymes. Food enzymes are found in food. You are in no way ever going to diminish your body's digestive prowess by taking a food enzyme. That would be no different than saying, the more carrots and lettuce I eat, the more dysfunctional my digestion is because I'm having these raw foods which have food enzymes. Isn't that going to make my body work less efficiently? No, because there's a difference between a food enzyme and a digestive enzyme. The whole goal of a food enzyme is to turn your food into usable energy. And there's something called the energy cascade. You might want to check out this video somewhere up here to learn more about that. But food enzymes, you have enzymes to digest your carbs, which is your first fuel tank. Then you've got proteins, which is the middle tank because it's the most important. So it protects itself. And then you've got the third gas tank, which is the fat gas tank. So carbs, proteins, fats, that's the energy cascade. Think of these as gas tanks. The more full these gas tanks are, the more healthy you will be. The more you will be able to overcome different types of bacteria and sicknesses and diseases and all the things that are out there. If you've got a strong, fortified gut, a fortified immune system, 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. But if you've got those energy tanks where they need to be, the more energy you have, the more you're going to win. So the more energy you have, the better you're going to function. So add a food enzyme to the mix if you haven't. And I just want to stress, these are not the same thing as probiotics. People are so happy about probiotics, and it's nice to hear people talk about probiotics, but what happens first is what's going on in the stomach. The intestines, where probiotics work, come later. Let's talk about why the stomach is so important, because we want to make sure that you're getting those food enzymes. We want to make sure that your stomach acid is doing what it needs to do. And that's going to lead me right into my third step. If you have an IBS issue, you might have a stomach acid deficiency. And most people think that they're making too much acid. It's just not so, unless you have a really rare tumor, which most people do not. They're complaining of excess acid because they're burping it up or refluxing it up and things like this, refluxing it up. That's just not the case. It doesn't mean that you have too much acid. What it does mean, though, is that you have a compromised mucosal lining. That is the protective barrier of your entire GI tract. And there's also that little flap between your stomach and your esophagus called the lower esophageal sphincter. And we want that sphincter to be nice and tight, so to speak, not too loose. And when it's too loose, that's why when people bend over, they have food that's coming up into their throat. That shouldn't be that way. So good things that'll help with that is making sure your stomach acid is where it needs to be. So what do I want you to do to make sure your stomach acid is where it needs to be? Eat bitter foods. There's only two that I'm going to give you right now because the others are not as potent, but ginger and lemon peel. So start zesting some lemon peel in your salads. You could even chew on a little piece of lemon peel the size of your pinky nail. Same thing with ginger. Use the size of a dime. Chew on that. Get the skin off and chew on ginger if you can handle it. For some, it's too spicy, but these are bitter foods which help to enact the brain to communicate better with the stomach. So if you have IBS issues, it may be because you're not eating enough bitter foods. All right, let's move now into step 4, which is you're eating too much sugar, refined sugar, that is. I'm not talking about whole fruit. Fruit juice, I don't want you doing that either. Fruit juice and refined sugar, refined meaning that it's been messed with, it's been tampered with, it's out of the whole complete product. An apple is great, apple juice, not so great. If you take sugar and you're using that for cookies, pie, all the stuff that you're consuming, it's not doing you any favors. Most people who have irritable bowel or Crohn's or colitis, a lot of the patients that I see, they're having an issue with the left side of their colon or the descending side. So this is often connected back to what's going on with your sugar consumption. So here's what you can do right away to help with that. Get all sugar except fruit out of your diet, every piece, and get flour, wheat flour, white flour, wheat flour. Get all the flour out of your diet. Now, if you want to use cashew flour, which is simply made by blending up cashews, it's so simple to do in a NutriBullet or even a Vitamix, some kind of a blender. It happens so fast. It's so easy. Replace that and start eating with that, and you will notice some dramatic changes. Why would wheat do that to you? Because again, it's been changed and tampered and it's just messed with. Things, let me just say this, and I should have said this about the enzyme component. Shelf life. These big agricultural type companies like Kraft Food and all the others, right? I don't want to single anybody out, but they're major conglomerations and billion-dollar companies. It's all about shelf life. So the longer something lasts on a shelf, the more profit they make. And when something goes into a can and sits on a shelf for 3 or 4 years, that's extending shelf life for that business, for that big major corporation, but at your health's expense. We don't want food to last forever in a can. The reason why that's happening is because they've removed the food enzymes. And so that's one of the reasons why it lasts so long. By you making sure that you're eating enough raw foods, by making sure that you're taking food enzymes, by making sure you're removing those foods that harm you because they're hybridized, genetically modified, things like this, they're full of chemicals, it's only going to behoove you. Then making sure your stomach acid is tight by eating those bitter foods, a great thing. So let's get on to our final option here, and that's calming your nervous system. Your nervous system is so in play here. Your parasympathetic part of your nervous system is the digestive aspect. It's the relaxation aspect. On the converse, you have the sympathetic, the fight or flight response type. And so that's what people are mostly locked into. And when you're mostly locked into that state, you are becoming acidic, too acidic. And one of the ways that you become too acidic is by eating too much refined flour and refined sugar. These are the 5 things that I would tell you to do. And let me give you one quick tip about how to calm your nervous system. On the left, little divot behind your left ear, just kind of rub on that. And also a good thing to do would be to put some rosemary oil back there, or even lavender or frankincense. Just a couple of drops is all it will take. Chamomile. These are things that help to really reconnect with that parasympathetic nervous system. Other things are going to be earthing your bare feet on the grass or the concrete. Don't put them on asphalt, but grass, dirt, concrete will do. Going for a walk, prayer, meditation. These are things that people need to be doing more of. And I want you to be doing this too, because if you're watching my video right now to this point, you're getting some information I hope that you could take and use right away. That's my whole goal, is I just want you to have the facts. This comes from me working with thousands of patients all over the world. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you like the best. I really would appreciate you sharing with me some things that you've done that have worked for you to share with others. I'm Dr. Christine, the Digestion Doc. Love yourself healthy.